don't know where I don't know why. I don't know where, but I don't know where. Back and around, back and around, back and around, back and around. Where hit the party, see shorty, please support, she treats the high support, see here in the course, I see we can nice. 4, 3, 6, 4, 17, 17, 17. So as far as I can tell with these glass-tipped pens, they just have these little crevices going up the side of the tips, and all these chubby little ink molecules just crawl up inside the cracks and the crevices and just hang on there for dear life as long as they can. But then, much to their chagrin, whenever I touch the tip of the pen to the paper, there's something super attractive, and maybe it's just absorbent about the paper, that just starts sucking the ink out of those crevices. It's like the opposite of capillary action, and just sucks the ink right out of the cracks and crevices and onto the paper, and before you know it, you're drawing. I know I say I'm not a scientist a lot, but this time I'm really not a glass dip pen scientist, and that is just my very basic understanding of how dip pens work. You dip the pen in the ink, and then you touch it to the paper, and art appears on the paper. Just like that. Wherever you touch it, that's where art appears. So why not try it? These pens were sent to me by a guy named Fire Spider Glass on Instagram. Check the description. Click on the link. Check him out. He's got a bunch of crazy stuff. But there's other places. His are really cool, but don't get too intimidated. If you can't afford one of his, grab a cheaper one on Amazon. Search them, and then grab one of his later if you're really excited about it. I mean, if you really love glass dip pens. And I had someone ask, like, why are you drawing with a glass dip pen at all, if new, more advanced, modern pen technology exists? It's 2017, right? We've invented new, better, newfangled ways to draw lines on paper. Why go back in time, right? If you're not, living out, if you're not in the woods for some weekend doing some reenactment, for some medieval thing, why even pick up one of these old-fashioned things? And that's a good question. Obviously, if you've watched any of my other videos, I don't use these pens all the time. I do normally use pens that I think are more convenient and easier to use, pens that I don't have to repeatedly keep dipping in ink, and I will say I don't have to dip them in the ink that often, like maybe every 5 minutes, depending on maybe what kind of lines you want to make and the absorbency of the paper. But why use this kind of pen? First of all, maybe just the novelty of it. Sometimes just using like a different art supply, a different weird, crazy, kind of weird and wacky art supply can spark a little bit of inspiration in your brain. Well, we don't really know how the human brain works, and we don't really know how art works, so we doubly don't know how any of this weird stuff works. So if it does work, let's just roll with it and use a dip pen sometimes. But I will say also, it's just a little bit satisfying to use these dip pen, the glass ones especially, because there's some feeling of just this glass tip being dragged across the tip of the paper. It just feels really good. I don't know. I like it. And I'm not going to complain about it. I will complain a little bit about when my glass pens shatter. And a lot of people say, I could never buy a glass pen. I would break them immediately. And I did not break mine immediately. I broke mine after a couple months. And I broke like 3 of them at once after breaking none of them for a while. So it can happen to you. You think it won't happen to you, and it will. And you think, but I think maybe if you think it will happen to you, it won't. Because you'll be more careful because you think it will happen to you. I think it only happened to me because I got lazy and I got negligent and I got careless. And I thought they were somehow perfect. I was too, they were unbreakable. I was unpen breakable or something. I don't know, but they're fun. I don't know how people do this stuff with glass blowing, glass making, whatever it's called. It's just a whole nother world to me. And, it's just a blessing that people can make pens out of it. Anything that people can make pens out of, I'm a fan of it. So that's why I also like bananas so much. You guys know that. Anyways, I'm doing this drawing in my sketchbook that I made myself. It's using crescent render paper, which is magical. Speaking of magical, this is magical paper to me because it doesn't bleed through at all. Somehow, I could probably pour a dump truck full of ink on this paper and it somehow would not bleed through to the next page. Somebody explain that to me. There's either plastic in the paper or magic in the paper. Or something behind door number 3. I don't know. There's probably some other good explanation that I haven't considered. But it's good paper. I didn't like any of their sketchbooks that they personally made, because they either don't lie flat or they're not hardback. So I just bought one of their drawing pads and tore out all the pages and bound it into my own sketchbook. So that's what you see me drawing in right here. And I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. And I'm glad you guys could sit here and watch. Let me know if you have any questions. And I'll try to answer at least one of them. All right, goodbye.